You know, when systems fail us, when they produce outcomes that are obviously unfair or unequal, we usually ask, what went wrong? But here's the thought. What if that's the wrong question entirely? What if this system isn't broken at all? What if it's actually working exactly as it was designed to? To figure that out, we're going to look at this whole problem through a lens you probably weren't expecting, the science of cybernetics. So Norbert Wiener, who's basically the father of cybernetics, had this really powerful way of looking at existence. His whole idea was that the universe is constantly trying to slide into chaos, into disorder. So everything we build, whether it's a tiny cell or a massive civilization, is basically a fight against that current.
And that's where cybernetics comes in. Now, when you hear cybernetics, don't just think sci-fi robots. It's much bigger than that. It's the fundamental science of how any system, and I mean any, from your body to the economy, uses communication and control to create little pockets of stability in a universe that wants to tear everything apart.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at this basic fight against chaos. Then, we'll uncover the main tool systems used to sort things out. We'll ask the big one, who gets to decide how we're sorted? We'll see what happens to people who don't fit the mold. And finally, we'll land on a pretty challenging conclusion. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into part one, this foundational struggle. Think about it. Every single system is in this constant tug of war with what scientists call entropy, that unstoppable pull towards total disorganization.
So to even exist, a system has to build these, well, Wiener called them local enclaves of order. Basically, it has to build walls to keep the chaos out. And the bricks and mortar for those walls? Communication and control. That's the whole point, right? To manage information and hold things together against that chaotic tide.
So the big question is, how does a system actually do that? How does it handle the messy, infinite complexity of the real world? Well, it uses this incredibly powerful sorting mechanism. It's a core principle of how control works.
The fancy term for this is variety attenuation. I know, it sounds a little intimidating, right? But the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. The world is full of what we call high variety, just endless details, nuances, and exceptions. A system can't process all that, so it attenuates it. It reduces all that messy reality down into a few simple, low-variety categories that it can actually manage.
And this right here, this is the fundamental trade-off. On one side, you've got the real world. It's chaotic, it's infinitely complex. And on the other, you have the system's map of that world. It's clean, it's simple, it's organized. Every single system, from the software on your phone to the entire legal code, works by making this exact kind of translation.
And believe me, this isn't just some abstract theory. Take a look at these. These were proposed indicators of violence for a government surveillance program. Things like anti-capitalism or hostility toward traditional morality. This is a perfect and kind of scary example of variety attenuation in the real world. The system takes the incredible complexity of a person's entire worldview and just flattens it into a few simple, dangerous-looking boxes to make its job easier.
Okay, and this is where it gets really crucial. If a system's main job is to put everything and everyone into boxes, who gets to build the boxes?
You see, a category, any category, it doesn't just exist in nature. It's a choice, a human choice, and that means every single one is loaded with values and political judgments. The second you create a box, you've made a decision about what, and more importantly, who you think belongs in it. So you have to ask, what biases are baked into the system's design from the very start?
So there was this fascinating debate on this very topic, and one of the speakers, Dr. Harold Taylor, argued that a system like a university should just ignore these political boxes. His argument was basically, hey, just look at the person, at their merits. The labels don't matter. He wanted the system to be blind to these categories.
But William F. Buckley Jr., he came right back at him. He argued that by refusing to make a moral judgment, you're actually making a huge judgment yourself. His point was that a system must have values. It has to be willing to draw lines and create categories to protect what it stands for.
And that right there, that's the whole tension in a nutshell. The act of sorting is never neutral. It is always political. And in the American context, well, this isn't some philosophical game. The system was designed from day one with a massive value-laden sorting category already built in, race.
So what happens to the people who don't fit into the system's neat little boxes? Or maybe more accurately, the people the system decides don't fit.
Okay, to get this, let's use a really cool analogy from our own brains, the amygdala hijack. You know that feeling, right?
Your brain perceives a threat, stress hormones flood your system, your rational thinking brain just goes offline. And boom, your reactive, emotional, fight or flight brain is suddenly in the driver's seat.
Well, guess what? A whole social system can have its own amygdala hijacked. When it's faced with people who don't conform to its categories, especially when those categories are built on centuries of racial bias, the system freaks out. It perceives a threat to its order, and it defaults to a punitive, reactive response instead of a logical, supportive one.
And that punitive response, it often causes way more harm than good. It's kind of like a doctor giving you a powerful drug for the wrong illness. The so-called cure, the thing that's supposed to enforce conformity, ends up causing a whole host of new, sometimes devastating problems.
Okay, so let's put all these pieces together. This is the big takeaway. This is where we synthesize the cybernetics, the control, and the social reality we've been talking about. It really boils down to this. The mechanism itself, it's cybernetic. It's this abstract, seemingly neutral process of managing chaos. But the application, the way it's used in the real world, in America, that has never been neutral. It has always been shaped by race and by class.
And that leads us to the heart of the matter. When you take these supposedly neutral control systems and you drop them into a society that was literally built on a foundation of racial and economic hierarchy, well, they don't stay neutral. They become a super efficient engine for reinforcing the exact inequality they were built on top of. So I'll leave you with this final thought. If a system produces the same outcome, time after time after time, is that system broken? Or is it working perfectly, exactly as it was designed to?